So I added two different endpoints out here, and once I refresh the screen, it's now checking the endpoints, it's seeing how the endpoints, let's say, behaving. And if I go into the overview, I now have something known as a DNS name. This is the name, guys, you give it to your end user. As an end user, you will give him that traffic manager.net. So something like star dot traffic manager. When I say star, it can be anything. Okay, traffic manager.net. This is the URL that you're giving to your end user. Again, you can map this URL. If you don't like it, you can map this URL to your own domain, like abc at the rate or abc, let's say .com or something like that. So now you have a traffic manager out here, and this traffic manager is handling all the traffic. So I'll go here into the Azure portal. I'll copy this out. I'll go to my browser, paste this out, say enter. Okay, so let's say advanced and proceed to something, because it's not a HTTPS. So my browser is telling this not a HTTPS. I'll say okay, fine, not a problem. I'll proceed this one. And now saying what? Hello, sorry, saying what? Hello from North Europe out here. There are two websites that are running. One is ECS2, the other is North Europe. Now my traffic manager is diverting the traffic to something called North Europe. Again, I can give this link to anyone online, and you can try this out. I'll paste this link out here. It's not HTTPS, this is HTTP. This demo traffic manager. I'm sorry. Yes, we will talk about that too. So we'll also see what are people online seeing, and then we'll confirm why is it showing North Europe or why is it showing ECS2 and so on and so forth. Yes, anyone online, can you all confirm what you are able to see?
Europe.
North Europe.
North
North
Europe.
Europe only. North Europe, North Europe, and North Europe. The reason it is only showing in North Europe is because when we create a traffic manager, we said that the routing method is something known as performance. So let's go to routing methods to understand why we are only getting North Europe and not ECS2. Routing methods in traffic manager Azure. Just type this in Google. First link you'll get traffic manager routing methods Azure. Just scroll down, and I am into a routing method called what? Performance. Select performance routing when you have endpoints in different geographic location and you want the end users to use the closest endpoint. Let's go to again this documentation elaborately. This is what it tells you is that if you have three different endpoints, let's say in our case, I have an endpoint called ECS to North Europe. I am a user who's coming from India, and when I request or using my browser, when I hit the traffic manager will first tell you, okay, fine, where is the user from? India. Now, if this or if I divert the traffic to ECS2, what will be the latency? Meaning, how soon can the ECS2, let's say, reply back? How soon can the North Europe reply back? In my case, I am a user who's closer to North Europe than to East US2. So East US2 can give me a latency of about 150 seconds or 150 milliseconds. North Europe can give me a latency which is less than 150 milliseconds, let's say 70 milliseconds out here. Just giving an ideal number. Again, if you are really specific about that, let's see. There is a website called Azure Speed Test. So if I go here, Azure latency test out here, just scroll down, and I will select two locations out here, guys. Okay, one is ECS2 and the other is North Europe. Okay, do you see which has the least latency in my case? North Europe, because I'm a user sitting in India. I am closer to North Europe than to ECS2. I am geographically situated closer to North Europe out here than to ECS2. So no matter where you are, meaning I hope everyone in the class is, let's say, from India. I think so. I'm just under the assumption. That's the reason when you refresh the screen, anytime you refresh the screen, your traffic will always and always go into North Europe only. But in case North Europe is down, because of some reason, North Europe is down, you have a disaster, but you have a DR, disaster recovery plan, in place out here. So let me simulate that situation. I'll go here. I'll say North Europe. I'll shut down my North Europe out here. Because of some reason, North Europe got shut down. So I shut this down. North Europe is no longer, let's say, available. Now let's go back. Again, it's because of my browser cache. It will take some time for my browser cache to, let's say, get eliminated out here. But if I take this and go into an incognito window, here, etc., and so on and so forth, it'll just take some time for this to get reflected. So let me give it a second. Let me see why this isn't responding. Let's see my ACS website, which is running status. And also this particular ECS2 website is, let's say, managed by this particular traffic manager. And as and when I stopped, do you see it's saying this is stopped? North Europe is actually stopped out here and etc. So let me refresh this a couple of times. And I have the ECS2. Again, it will take a minute. It will take a minute because what really happens is that when you interact with the traffic manager, the traffic manager will have a cache. Meaning, the very first time I hit the traffic manager, or the very first time I hit this, it'll understand, okay, fine, this is a user who's coming. I need to divert him to something called North Europe. The second time when you try to hit this request, you will bypass the traffic manager and hit the application directly until and unless your browser cache is not removed, which takes around 1 or 2 minutes. And then once your browser cache goes away, your request again comes down to your traffic manager. Now your traffic manager is understanding where to go. It's now telling, okay, fine, North Europe, but North Europe is down. So the only option is what? East is 2. And that's the reason I am now able to see East US 2 website that is responding back again right now. That is what you get when you go for a performance traffic routing methodology, meaning you are diverted to the best performing server or the server which is closest to you. When I say performance, it is in the terms of latency, which is the, let's say, server that is responding to you real quick. Then I have something called as a priority routing methodology, priority traffic routing methodology out here. So what I'll do is I'll just go back into my app services. I'll just start my North Europe service as well. So I'll just say start this out North Europe service and started the web application successfully. Let me go back into the traffic manager, and into the traffic manager by default right now when I created the traffic manager, it's in a performance routing methodology. I'll go into the configurations and I can change this at any time to, let's say, priority. I'll just save, and this will take like a minute for the traffic manager to update, let's say, the setting out here. And once it's updated, now you are into what? Priority routing methodology. So let's understand what is priority out here. So let's go back and say priority. Okay, let's here come here. Select priority routing when you have a primary endpoint for all the traffic. You can provide multiple backup endpoints in case the primary is down. Meaning, let's say no matter what happens, my user should only and only go to East US 2. This is my condition, which is my primary application. Maybe because I've invested more in that particular application, the plan that I've used is a greater plan. I put a lot of, let's say, effort there in order to develop that out. But just for disaster recovery, I have a secondary endpoint, which is in North Europe out here. So what I'll do is I'll just come here. And if you look now at the endpoints, there is something called priority assignment. Here, my endpoint 1 by default got a priority called 1, endpoint 2 by default got a priority called what? 2. Let me process out. Endpoint 2 by default got a priority called 2. Just like we did in network security group rules, lesser the priority, greater is the weightage. That is what will happen. So no matter what I do, my request will always and always go to endpoint 1, which is ECS 2. Let's say I alter the priority. I'll say endpoint 1. Let's say the priority is not 1 but 3. I'm saving this out right now. So I'm going to the endpoint, changing the priority to 3. And now, do you see endpoint 1 and endpoint 2 are there? Which has got the least priority? Endpoint 2, which is let's say having a priority of 2. Now, if I refresh my screen, again, browser is let's say acting up like that. Let's go into the incognito and let's try there. Again, my browser is let's say really caching things out right now. Let me try this with another browser. Again, you just have to wait for a minute or so. Okay. My entire system is cached. My IP is being cached right now. So let's try this out. Sorry. No, I did save it. The priority right now is different right now. If I'm not wrong. It's saved. Endpoint 2 has priority 2 and so on and so forth. Again, it'll take some time, guys. You'll have to give it like about 30 or 1 minute or something like that. And then once you hit this
Not Europe.
endpoint 2, yes, it will come for some people. Again, it'll take some time for me because I'm doing the same, let's say, endpoint again and again, hitting the same endpoint again and again. There's some heavy browser cache that got cached out here. Let me try doing the instance once again. Still taking ESUS 2. Again, if you try it out, you will get North Europe out here.
Yeah, we are getting not just.
North Europe out here. So, reason being, in my case, my browser is or my IP address is directly cached out here. Again, it'll take some time for that cache to get revised. And once the cache gets revised, I will be going into a website called North Europe out here. Reason being, my priority has changed. The priority now has changed. And let me try it one more time. Let's see. Okay, fine. My priority has changed. And now I'll be hitting a website called North Europe as such out there. So it just depends upon what kind of a configuration that you let's say play around with. Again, the multiple things like priority weighted performance geographic multi-value subnet. We need to understand these four. Priority weighted performance and geographic multi-value and subnet out here are not used a lot. They are not really used a lot out here. These are the four that we need to let's say understand about. I spoke about priority. I spoke about performance. Can you all try what is weighted and what is geographic? Can you all try and let me know what is weighted and what is geographic out here? Two things I tried it out. Two things I want you all to try. So totally four different traffic routing methodologies what we need to understand. Again, interview questions out here are like, what is the difference between a traffic manager and a load balancer? Why do you want to go for a traffic manager versus a load balancer out here? What do you mean by traffic routing methodologies in a traffic manager out here? Scenarios like my client is complaining that his traffic is always and always going into North Europe only and not East US. Can you figure out why? Then you'll have to say that we'll have to see what is the routing methodology. What is the routing method configured? Is it priority? Is it performance? What exactly it is? And what is the location of the client? In which location? From which location the client is coming from? Because one thing, guys, you have to understand is that if we configure it in performance, we are going to North Europe always because we are a user sitting in India. Your users can be across the world, right? Just depends upon which location the user is coming from. Let's say the user is from US only. He'll only go to US website only because that's the let's say least or let's say that's the yes, least latency or best performing server. So you'll have to ask these questions telling that where is the user? What kind of a routing methodology is it? Are the applications up? The web app that is running in the background, is the web app okay? Is the health of the web app okay? And something like that. So these are the questions that we need to let's say ask. Based upon that, we can then troubleshoot accordingly, telling what kind of a routing methodology is it and all that stuff. Yes. Any questions till here?
Hi, Kiran.
Just a second. Just a second. Let's come back to you. In case of virtual machine, okay. Will the traffic manager be useful, okay, for web apps deployed under a single app service plan? Yes. You can also divert the traffic to web applications under a single app service plan. Just a second. I'll just take a question offline and come back. Yes. Yes. In case of virtual machine, if you want to add a virtual machine inside it, go to the endpoints, say add, and go to something called as public IP address in case of virtual machine, and you get to choose a public IP address. And one condition here is that if you want to manage the traffic to a virtual machine, the virtual machine has to have a DNS name configured. You cannot give a direct public IP address. If you have a DNS name configured to a public IP, that public IP can be given here. So you can divert the traffic to a virtual machine as well. Virtual machines, yes. Virtual again, traffic manager doesn't consider where your endpoints are. Traffic manager can, kind of take it, or traffic manager will tell that, okay, fine, you know what, I will give you anywhere, not a problem. Your applications can be anywhere. It can be in AWS, it can be anything. Again, if someone wants to design a robust architecture, what they normally do is that, again, when you look at companies like Amazon or Facebook, which needs the application hook or crook up and running anytime, what they do is put a traffic manager in front, probably have one particular server or two servers running in Azure. You can have something like an EC2 instance running on let's say AWS websites or Amazon cloud out here. You can have an on-premise server. You can have your own servers out here which are on-premise, and using a traffic manager you can divert traffic to anything. On-premise, external endpoints, virtual machines, whatever you have, can divert your traffic to all these things out here as such. If someone online had a question, I can take it now.
Hi, Kiran.
Good, Pawan.
Actually, my doubt is regarding yesterday's class.
Okay.
Uh, we created a web service in a separate resource group and SQL database in
Yes.
a separate resources. Why we we can create both in one resource group?
Again, just like very simple. I want to make it much more orderly. Again, just to give you a very simple comparison, you can have your photos, movies, and everything in one folder, put it in. But I prefer it, let's say, in different folders out here, so that it's easy for me to manage. If I want to delete something, I'll just delete, let's say, the entire folder. Same way in cloud as well, resource groups are nothing but kind of folders out here. Again,
Yeah,
in today's example also, I could have created everything in one single resource group. I did not do that. I wanted to separate things out depending upon the resource type, so that I know which resource is sitting in where. So for effective management, again, if you are a user who says that, okay, fine, you know what, I'm good with one resource group, go for that, not a problem. I don't have any
in the
preference. Sorry,
in real time scenario, so it, how would we have to do it?
it depends upon the project. It completely depends upon the project. I've worked with projects where we put everything in one resource group. I've also worked with projects wherein we maintain application, let's say, resource groups, data resource groups, traffic managers, and all that stuff, different things out here. So yes, it completely depends upon how the or what the organization really wants to follow. But it is good to have multiple resource groups for multiple resource types, so that it is easy for you to manage things out, so that one resource doesn't conflict with the other.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, when will our DevOps class start? When will it start, guys? 22nd. I've told this a couple of times out here, but again, it's 22nd. I said traffic manager and load balancer are both the same mechanism. No, you cannot say that, because load balancer is a very simple device. All it knows is, okay, fine, I have to divert your load either to server 1 or server 2. It's acting in a round robin fashion. Traffic manager doesn't act in a round robin fashion. Traffic manager has a set of rules that controls how the traffic actually kind of progresses. Also, Load balancer is a regional device. You need a load balancer and the virtual machines to be in the same region. Traffic manager is a global device. So there are different things out here as such. Yes. Anything else?
Hi Kiran.
Go please. Go Shiva.
In Freetail web service, it will support which locations? Actually,
In
I have
free trial,
created in one.
I have seen in
Yeah,
free trial there are limited support, let's say location support. You can try North
yeah.
Central
Only one
US.
is the North Europe.
You can do North Central US as well. North Central US.
Okay.
West US
These
free
are
also.
sorry. Yes, so
West
you can try
US free.
North Central West US. Yes, West US, as someone said, West US is one of the available regions. So you have North Europe, North Central US, and West US. Three regions where you can go ahead and let's say do this. Let's say create your services in a free trial subscription. Yes, there will be separate costing for creating a traffic manager. For creating a traffic manager, there's a separate cost. Again, for creating the app service, there's a separate cost. So your billing will be a cumulative of all these things. Any more questions? So what I want you all to do is that over the weekend, just try to go through two different concepts. One is a traffic manager, and on the side, just also try load balancing. See how are they different. Because we did load balancing a couple of while ago, and then we are doing traffic managers today. Do both of them together to understand what are the differences. You'll be able to appreciate why traffic manager is better than a load balancer out here. Again, you can also have something like this. You can have one endpoint. Let's say you have a load balancer already. This load balancer is managing two different virtual machines in an availability set. So you have a load balancer. You place the virtual machines in an availability set out here. Let's see if I have an availability set. Yes, I have. So you have an availability set. You place these both virtual machines into an availability set out here. You have a web app. You now can put a traffic manager, attach it to the load balancer directly. All you need to do is a public IP address. And this particular load balancer needs to have a public IP address. And that particular public IP needs to have a custom or let's say a DNS name configured. You can also have such a kind of a mechanism. So the possibilities are a lot. The amount of probabilities that you can do or the amount of possibilities that you can do with a load balancer is a lot out here. This is what you can actually go ahead and start trying this out. Yes, any more questions here? Yes, anyone? Any more questions? It depends. It just depends upon what do you really want to do. Whether is it let's say when you do a Kubernetes or something like that, you use a load balancer. When you use Azure Web Applications, you use the traffic managers. So it depends upon what do we exactly want to do out here. What is let's say the use case scenario of each and everything out there. So it can be a combination of both as well. I'm sorry, cloud service. Okay, when do we use cloud service? When you want to divert the traffic to a NIC card, NIC card or something like that, which has a public IP. Then you go ahead and use something known as a cloud service, which is neither a public IP, neither let's say an app service. That's where you do a cloud service as such. Let's see one question here. Jenkins Kubernetes get Ansible will be covering. No, I will not be covering Ansible. Neither. Okay, Ansible is something. Yes, Ansible is the only thing that I won't be covering out here. But Jenkins, Kubernetes, YAML, Git, GitHub. Again, Git is a software. GitHub. In place of GitHub, we are doing something called Azure Repos. Azure repository is something service inside Devops. Again, same thing. Open source, it's GitHub. It's called GitHub. In Azure, it's called Azure Repos. One and the same. So if you know Azure Repos, you eventually know something called as GitHub. Terraforms, yes. Docker, CI/CD pipelines will cover. CI/CD again is the crux of something known as DevOps out there. So yes, we are going to do all those things out here in DevOps classes out there as such. Ansible is something that I'm not touching. Ansible is something that I'm not really covering out. Ansible requires a separate, let's say, class out there. So Ansible, I am not really covering Ansible out here as such. Yes, more or less admin part is completed. Like you still have much more services that we'll take in DevOps. So while doing DevOps, I also need to cover something related to administration, like something called as key vault. There is something known as key vault I did not touch. There's something called function that I did not touch. These things will be covered in DevOps. Along with DevOps, it will make a lot of sense. Yes. All right. So that's it from my end today, guys. Thank you and have a good day ahead.